our notions about justice usually are influenced by our own circumstances, right? The circumstances of our own lives. They're influenced by our opinions, by our biases, on what we think we deserve and what others might deserve. I deserve this much, and you deserve that much. We believe as Americans, justice has to do with equality all the time. But then comes a man named Jesus, eager to mess even more with our regular ideas about things, what's right or what's fair. And most times, he is always messing with our heads as to what's right and what's wrong, and he purposely does it. Today's gospel is about generosity. Maybe no other words attributed to Jesus cause much offense as today's gospel. I remember listening to this parable with Father Martineau at St. Michael's. It was one of those parables that kind of stuck with you, because I thought God was really unfair, giving people who worked an entire day in the hot sun, slaving, the same amount to the people who worked 1 hour at the end of the day. This is not right. I used to say to myself, this is crazy. It looks like Jesus is telling us the kingdom of heaven is a situation in which hardworking, reliable people get shafted. Or really do they? The people who worked the full day are understandably resentful. I think I would be. We aren't told how the 1 hour shift feels. Maybe they felt like they hit the lotto. I think I would have, working 1 hour for a whole day's pay. Maybe they hightailed it back to their homes thinking the landowner might have changed his mind. Maybe he had a lapse in judgment, and he may want some of that money back when he realizes what he did. The actions of the landowner are an allegory for God. The landowner is a story about God. His actions seem crazy, and God is crazy. Get used to it. That's how he works. He's crazy. He's crazy in love for us. He's crazy for justice. He's just plain crazy. Look at the world and all of its beauty. Look at how he created things. So beautiful. Sometimes God makes no sense from an economic perspective. He doesn't sometimes make any sense from an economic perspective. And yet that's the point. Jesus' parables often include absurd, over-the-top behavior to drive home his message. When the landowner promises to pay whatever is right, his words meant what's just. This is a parable today about God's graciousness. So excessive is God's nature to be gracious and to give that it violates all of our instincts as human beings about fairness, about equality. Such justice seems rash in our perspective when we think about it. It almost makes God out to be inattentive to folks who have worked hard for that 8-hour period. But then again, the landowner does give the complaining workers exactly what he promised. He didn't cheat them at all. Those that worked 8 hours, he gave them exactly what he promised. This story is also a parable about need. We learn more about God when we travel deeper into this parable, into the world of this parable. And let's consider those people who he hired at the end of the shift, those 5 o'clock people. What kind of people are the last to find jobs and to find works? Those people are characters who are not irresponsible or lazy. God does not say this in this parable. But most likely they're unwanted. Yes, unwanted, when you really think about it. Were you ever chosen last at kickball? I was. Many, many, many times. I was not athletic. I'm more athletic in my old age than I am in my youth, believe it or not. God picks those chosen last for kickball. He always does. He loves it because he's crazy. He's crazy in love with you. God is still generous, even to the poor. In Jesus' times, these would be the weak, the infirm, the disabled. And these are the ones that he hires last. Maybe the elderly too. And other targets of discrimination, such as criminals or anyone with a bad reputation. Personally, I can't be a priest in the Roman Catholic Church because I'm not good enough for them. Anyone who is gay is not. Let's be honest, folks. I'm one of those who God picks at the 5 o'clock crowd, but I don't care because I'd rather be in the 5 o'clock club than not in the club at all. Amen. For years, the divorces in the Catholic Church, people who were divorces were also those who were hired at the last minute. You took the last seat. But God took you and paid 100% of your wage. Black Americans, American Indians, Latinos, Jews, all people who have been chosen last in our society and are still being chosen last today. The God who is just and is inclined to show special generosity to the poor and to those who are outcast. No wonder the respectable people get anxious in our world. They are going crazy. When you think about it, they are getting the short end of the stick because God's justice and God's ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. Thank God. So God does not do math like we would like him to sometimes. And I'm happy to say that he doesn't. I think it makes him funny. I think it makes him crazy. I think it makes him lovable. That he does what he believes is fair. Today, undocumented immigrants also belong on that list that were hired way at the end. And who really is hiring them these days? They're not being hired anywhere. The parable's landowner, in our parable today, God, might be at risk for prosecution in the good old USA today, which makes America weak and not great. Many of our laws go against the Bible. Many of our laws in the United States, again and again, go against hospitality, the compassion and the love toward refugees, strangers, and other aliens. So my brothers and my sisters, if you've been chosen last for kickball or baseball, be glad. We only had to work an hour for full pay. And I love that crazy God. Amen.